Welcome to the BILD Print Media process video brought to you by Better Life Technology. Founded in 1998, Better Life Technology LLC, BLT, is a leading manufacturer of roll-out vinyl flooring. From BILD solid color flooring to BILD graphics print media, BLT provides high-quality, durable vinyl flooring for any application. Extruded as a clear, flexible, pure PVC product, BILD Graphics is designed for second surface printing for both UV and solvent inks. Manufactured in widths up to 10 feet and thicknesses ranging from 35 mm to 95 mm, BILD Graphics is the ultimate print media, providing industry-leading options and image protection. In this video, we'll show you all the steps that go into designing, printing, and installing your BILD Print Media product. This will include floor layout, unpacking your material, material handling, printer setup, post-printing inspection, repackaging, and finally, site preparation and installation. The floor layout and design is an extremely important step in the process. There are several things to take into consideration. Is the floor level? Is the room square? Where are the doorways, cased openings, or closets located? Because of these things, actual on-site measurements are required. Do not accept blueprint measurements or a rough estimate of the room size. This will lead to costly mistakes. The on-site measurements can also uncover problems with the floor, such as high or low spots or areas that are not level. These types of inconsistencies can disrupt the way your pattern lays out or the amount of material needed. When you get started, you'll need to take into account the full image size first. We recommend designing the area with a minimum of 4 to 6 inches of bleed on the full room sizing. Also, be sure to accommodate a 2-inch overlap on the side seams and a minimum of 3-inch overlap on the end seams. This ensures ample material for a successful install. Never print edge-to-edge using a factory edge for seam joints. Slight variations in manufactured edge prevent hidden seams. If you're designing for a room that is 20 feet by 36 feet, you wouldn't simply use 2 horizontal 10 feet wide sheets or 4 vertical 10 feet sheets because you must account for all of the necessary overlaps. Also, go with the shortest sheet possible, even if it means an extra seam in the room. Shorter sheets will minimize the chance for printing and alignment errors and will improve the panel registration accuracy. As you design, pay close attention to the high traffic areas and doorway locations. You'll want to avoid seams at these 2 areas. To do this, you can adjust the art one way or the other while maintaining balance in the room. That balance will give your room a far more appealing look when it's finished. You also want to avoid 4-way intersections, which can easily become points of failure in the flooring. Make sure the panels are staggered or offset to avoid this problem. It is important to remember when designing the floor to check with the printer to determine the file type and size. Some file types aren't scalable, and the file type requirement can vary from printer to printer. Another best practice is to ensure that the client approves each step in the process. Color, layout, seam locations all need client approval to avoid potential misunderstandings. You'll be glad you took a little extra time to include the client in the process. Once the floor design layout is approved and finalized, it can be submitted for printing. There are several steps in the printing process. Let's begin with unpacking the material. The material will arrive packed in a large tube. When moving the tube from your receiving area, be sure the boom on your forklift is inserted all the way through the inner core of the tube. Do not insert the boom pole partially into the inner core of the tube and lift, because this will severely damage the BILD print media material. By inserting the boom completely through the inner core of the tube, the weight of the material is properly supported. The tube has a wood cap at each end held in place with 3 or 4 screws supporting the core. It is important that these screws are completely removed, so the BILD print media isn't damaged when it is withdrawn from the tube. A screw left in the tube will scratch and damage your material. At this point in the process, it is critical that anyone involved with prepping the material wear proper gloves. Oils from your hands can leave fingerprints or other markings that can show through on the final product. We recommend wearing nitrate-covered gloves. Latex or cotton gloves can leave unwanted residue. Nitrate-covered gloves are readily available and do not leave any kind of residue on the material. If, at any time in the printing process, you need to walk on the material, always wear the recommended foot booties. And one final material handling recommendation: anytime exposed skin could accidentally touch the material, please wear Tyvek wrist protectors or wrist guards. These safeguards will help ensure that the material does not come into contact with your skin and affect the quality of your final printed product. Now, wearing proper gloves, it's time to remove the paper wrapping. Take your box knife and insert it horizontally across the material and cut the tape. Do not insert the knife vertically. This will damage the BILD Print Media material. And the last step is to remove the plastic wrapping covering the material. You're now ready to move the material into the printing area of your building. Unload the material and leave it there for at least 24 hours prior to printing. This allows the material to acclimate to the room temperature of the printing area. This acclimation time is a key part of producing a quality product with BILD Print Media. Once the material has been properly acclimated to room conditions, you're ready to load it into your machine carriage. Be sure to insert the spindle into the material and lift it onto the machine to avoid crowning or stretching of the center point. Be sure to wear the nitrate gloves so you won't contaminate the material, and use caution so that your arms don't touch the material. The material should always run down the center of the machine. It's a good idea to pass the material through the print bed to ensure that it is square across the whole bed. It's very important to do this to be sure the material is going to evenly flow through the center of the machine. After you have made sure the material is correctly placed on the bed of your machine, it's time to check the vacuum and tension settings. We recommend a vacuum range between 20 and 40% on full 10 feet sheets. If you're using a 5 feet sheet, we recommend that you raise the vacuum level appropriately. If the vacuum level is too high, the material can bind and drag through the machine, which will change your registration. The tension settings should be higher in the front when compared to the back. Your tension should run at approximately 80% on the front and 20% on the back to effectively pull the material through the printer without it binding. You need just enough tension on the back of the printer to make the material flow through properly. After you've gone through the steps we've just showed you, you're ready to print. First, look at the tiling of the art. We recommend one hit of color with 2 passes of white over it. To avoid the possibility of over-resolution, keep the printing less than 600 dpi. You will want only 8 to 10 passes of the printhead to get the resolution needed. Too many passes can cause overheating, which can result in material curling. As the material begins to print, you need to apply double-sided tape to the secondary core. Apply the tape completely across the core and smooth it down. Be sure to only run the tape horizontally as shown. Any other type of application will cause serious problems with the printing. Make sure the material is wrapping tight onto the core. This will help keep the material straight and prevent uneven printing. After printing, each roll should be taken to the inspection area using proper handling techniques. Do not bow or arch the material, and be sure to wear appropriate gloves. Lay panel 1 out onto the floor. Check the measurements, color, and dimension requirements. Then go on to panel 2. Again, check the measurements, color, and dimension requirements for panel 2. Then lay both panels together to ensure you have a good fit. Go on to panel 3 until you have finished inspecting all your printed panels. If you have the space, it's best to leave the entire job out and check it against your art. If you don't have the space, do this in a step-by-step process, checking panels 1 and 2, then 2 and 3, and so forth. Finally, you trim off the excess clear material using a straight edge and utility knife. This makes the on-site installation much easier. You're now ready to pack the product for shipping to the installation site. You begin by rolling the panels up, starting with panel 1 and progressing through in numerical order. Next, you cover each roll with the original packing foam and tape it. You will then insert the rolls back into their protective sleeves. When doing this, keep the material low to the ground and as level as possible, sliding the tube gently over the roll. Put the end caps on, number the sleeves according to the panel number, and mark each sleeve by the direction for unrolling. Your final step is to move the sleeves to a solid deck skid, no groove-channeled skids. Be sure the sides of the skid are supported to keep the tubes from rolling off and secure the rolls with banding so they don't move during shipment. Then shrink wrap the skids for security. Now you're ready for shipment. BILD Print Media products are frequently used in high-traffic areas, so floor preparation is especially important before installing the BILD Print Media. Begin by removing all existing floor coverings. Sweep and clean the floor thoroughly. This will help ensure a smooth final surface. The floor must also be free of oils and chemicals because they can interfere with a good bond. Next, the concrete floor must be moisture tested before starting the installation. Better Life Technology recommends priming extremely porous floors. Please see the installation guide for more information on priming and moisture testing. To ensure a proper installation, you will need to make any repairs to your concrete floor prior to the installation. Make sure you fill any scratches, holes, expansion joints, and cracks with the recommended leveling compound in order to make the floor as smooth and level as possible. In addition, we recommend you use a gray floor patch instead of a white floor patch. White floor patch has been known to bleed through the G-floor graphic material. After you've completed these steps, you're ready to start the installation. The first step is to maintain the material, adhesive, and job site at a temperature between 65 degrees Fahrenheit and 85 degrees Fahrenheit for 48 hours prior to the installation and during the installation. If the G-floor graphic material has been stored at a cooler environment, it will need to be unrolled and allowed to acclimate to the room temperature overnight. Please inspect the material prior to installation. Any defects should be immediately reported to the place of purchase prior to installation. Better Life Technology will not be responsible for labor costs to repair or replace material with defects that were apparent before or noticed at the end of the installation. BILD Print Media products are flexible and handle easily when cutting and fitting to your room. Use standard application practices when installing the floor. Plan your layout before you cut the material. Measure and square up the area to be installed. Take your time as you cut the material to help avoid costly mistakes. After you've matched the pattern and the material has been fit, lap back half of the sheet to expose the underfloor for the adhesive application. Be careful when you fold the material. Always fold the material in a wide radius to avoid sharp kinks and creases, which can cause damage to the product. It is very important to not use multipurpose or VCT adhesive. Adhesive must be plasticizer migration resistant. Better Life Technology recommends WF Taylor 2091 TPS adhesive for use with the BILD Print Media. When applying the adhesive, use a notched trowel, size 1/16 inch by 1/32 inch by 1/32 inch. If the notches are too large, they place too much adhesive, which can lead to trowel marks showing through the material. It can also leave excessive indentations. The trowel marks and indentations can cause swelling and buckling throughout the material. If the trowel notches are too small, the adhesive will not hold the flooring down. With a proper trowel, spread the adhesive over 100% of the exposed subfloor. Do not leave any gaps or puddles. Be sure to keep the trowel away from the vinyl backing to avoid scratches. Give the adhesive sufficient drying time. Follow the adhesive manufacturer instructions on drying time. After the appropriate amount of drying time, roll the sheet forward onto the adhesive to avoid trapping air. Do not drop the material onto the adhesive. Next, roll the G-Floor graphic with a 3-section 100-pound or heavier floor roller. Roll in both directions. For instructions on how to install an exterior floor, please see the installation guidelines. Heat welding is the process of heat fusing 2 sheets of resilient sheet vinyl flooring together at the seam. Using a grooving tool, groove the seam to a consistent depth of approximately 2/3 to the thickness of the floor or half the thickness of the welding thread, whichever is less. Take care not to groove completely through the backing layer. With a heat gun set between 350 degrees Fahrenheit and 400 degrees Fahrenheit, insert the welding thread into the standard speed nozzle as it comes into contact with the grooved seam. A properly executed heat weld seam offers impervious, reinforced seams recommended for high traffic areas. After allowing the thread to cool to room temperature, it may be trimmed and skived. If your product is embossed, the thread can only be skived to the top of the embossing. If you are going to do cold weld seams, please refer to the installation guide for complete instructions. After the installation is complete, keep traffic off the floor for at least 24 hours and heavy objects or rolling loads for 72 hours. Do not slide heavy appliances or furniture over the flooring. Please see the installation guide for additional information. When working with BILD Print Media, it is critical that you follow all the steps that we reviewed in this video. Everything you do impacts the final outcome of your BILD Print Media material and the installation process. We thank you for taking pride in your work and helping to ensure a successful installation and happy client.